Welcome back to Classic Firearms. I'm Brandon, and this is the Canik MC9 Prime. Now, this is the long-awaited new carry gun from Canik that arrived at SHOT Show, or at least was announced at SHOT Show. Now, you may have seen a bunch of different tech specs and reviews on these, but in this video, we're actually going to demonstrate and actually clarify some of the claims made about the gun. So without further ado, let's dive into the tech specs first, and then actually verify that information as we move forward. So, get that case out of the way. The Canik MC9 Prime. You're looking at a total weight of 23.4 ounces, a total length of 6.73 inches, not ounces, inches, 6.73 inches, and a total height of 5.43. Now, these are things we will measure in a few just to see how accurate those claims really are. Now, some other notable features on this pistol are going to be your night vision sights. So you have an orange front reticle with night vision sights actually embedded into the blacked out rears, which is really nice. You have Canik rival-like slide serrations on here, with the barrel also matching those slide serrations in the cuts that they made. The barrel is even ported on 3 different areas, so kind of like the Noon 3, and beyond that, there's on the other side. You also have a fluted barrel. It is fluted on all 4 sides, so right up top, on either side, and the bottom. So very, very unique design. That slide does have a lightning cut up top, but also porting for that barrel on the slide. So overall, making this a comped gun. Now, to be honest, the reason why I kind of call this a rival looking gun is because it is very, very similar. Let me show you exactly what I mean. In the rival, you had a top port or lightning cut up front. You also had cuts right here. That's the same exact thing as you get on the actual Canik MC9 Prime. But then you also get the comp, but it's not a comp that is separated from the barrel. It's included into the actual barrel, and then the slide cuts as well. So it's kind of like the Canik TTI Combat and the Canik Rival had a baby, and there you go. That's the Canik MC9 Prime. Moving on, you also have an optic cut right up front, which they do say works best with their MO4 optic. It's a fully enclosed optic, which you don't have here to show. However, that is Canik's optic that they make in-house themselves. Speaking of in-house themselves, this particular firearm, let's see, it's on here somewhere right back here, is made in Florida, so made in the United States, which you may also know. Now, moving on a little bit farther, you do have some standard features that you expect from Canik nowadays, and that is the painted rear striker pin, or the actual firing pin, so you can tell when it is actually ready to fire. And of course, these firearms are always clear before you begin, and then that actually, let me show you, goes away as soon as you pull that trigger. So very interesting there, or very unique to Canik. Not necessarily they're the only ones that do it, but they do it on every gun. You also have your chamber indicator. So if there's a bullet in there, this little piece, this little notch right here, will pop out and let you know that there is a bullet in the chamber. Beyond that, you're also getting your indexing points. So you have an easy place to find for your trigger finger to stay off that trigger when you don't need it to be, and then also on the reverse side for your thumb. That way, it's easy to find where you're supposed to put your hands and present out. Moving on, down to the polymer portion of this pistol. So your takedown levers are here, as you might expect from a Canik. They do feel just a little bit more aggressive than they did even on the Canik, the Rival specifically. But all in all, it's still very Canik. You also have a bottom Picatinny rail with 3 crossbar slots, so you can put most optics that are not optics, but lights and lasers you're gonna want to put on there. And then on the front, you have a very aggressive, I'm talking TTI combat level aggressive stippling on the front here, on the trigger guard. Not to mention, they also retain a double undercut trigger guard. So that, of course, makes it so you have one spot for your fingers as they come up and meet the trigger guard, and another spot for your hand as you kind of present out. It's a nice place to put your hand and helps a little bit better with holding that firearm. Now, on to the trigger weight. Now, this trigger feels fantastic. First off, I pulled the trigger a couple times and tested out before we began filming. It is amazing. So they claim it's around 4 to 5 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. But you pull it back, you see that you have the trigger safety there that pulls, and then the actual trigger. So it kind of goes pretty far back into there, and then breaks. Now here is where the magic. That break is very crisp and very clean. That reset, I didn't actually intend to reset that. I moved it just a little bit and it reset. Hang on, let me do that one more time so you can hear it. barely any movement. You can put rounds downrange very quickly with this thing. But let's go ahead and verify the actual trigger weight, because they claim one thing. I want to see if it's actually true on the production model that's sitting here in front of me. So I'll be right back. And now I feel like I need a lab coat for this, but we have entered the testing portion of this review. I'm gonna weigh it, I'm gonna measure it, and then I'm also gonna measure that trigger pull. So first things first, let's cock that gun, get it ready to go. Barely fits, and then we will begin that pull right now. So first reading is 3.42. That's very, very light, but pretty close to that 4 pounds they were claiming. Let's try it one more time. See if I can get it consistently here. In 3, 2. 3.98. So it really is pretty close to that 4 pound claim that I've seen online. So that's actually pretty interesting. It does feel like 4 pounds, and to be honest with you, after you've pulled it, because you do not have to, here, I'll show you. Once you've pulled that trigger, bang, because you do not have to go here and there, it does not feel like 4 pounds the entire time. Actually, I'm curious. Let me try that real quick. So, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna depress the trigger. I'm holding on that wall, and then I'm gonna replace, yeah, right up 406. So that, when it hits that wall, really is that 4 pounds. Sometimes I found on triggers that when you start depressing them, maybe a little bit more difficult. Okay, moving on to the weight. I'll be right back. Okay, scales on the table. We have the Canik MC9 Prime. Take out the mag. Let's weigh that first. You are looking at 1.278 pounds, so that roughly is going to be, what, 20.32 ounces, somewhere in that ballpark. Now, with the mag, put the mag on the scale, you're looking at 1.46 on the dot pounds, which will equate to 23.36 ounces. Yes, I had to do the conversion on those and actually write them down because I'm not a math wizard or a conversion wizard in that. So anyway, moving on. Now, time to measure it and see exactly how tall, how wide, and how long this thing actually is. So first things first, we're looking at 6.5, with the beaver tail just a little bit more than 6.5 inches. Let me show the camera real quick. You're looking right about there. So yeah, right in that 6.5-ish area. So it's not quite a 7-inch gun, which is always nice when you're concealing it. Something a little bit shorter is expected. Now, let's see the total height. 5.5 with the mag. You're looking at like 5.25 without the mag. So let's go ahead and lock that into place, and I'll show you guys exactly what we're looking at here. So with the mag there, you can see it right there. And as you can see here, you're really looking at about 1 inch wide with about 1.25 inches when it comes to where the mag well is. Everything else does retain roughly that inch. The rounded sides are a little bit harder to measure. So without further ado, let's go ahead and move on. For the final thing, let's talk about what actually comes in that box, because as you have seen in their promo videos and everything that's been out there online, you get some cool stuff, which is why it's also last. First things first, you get a really cool hard case that can lock, which is always nice. The Canik Prime logo and that little badging is on both sides, and then you also have a G-code holster in the box, which it does retention. It's very, very good in there. Like, it's very difficult. I actually had to do 2 takes of that intro because when I pulled it off, I didn't realize how much retention it had, and it just spread apart and I hit the case and it kind of flew off the table. But moving on, you're also going to get extra back straps up here and all your Canik tools right in here. So in that little mini Canik MC9 Prime, you do have some extra tools. Now, you're also going to get an extra magazine, and they give you a speed loader. So in case your thumbs get tired at the range after shooting 500 rounds, that you can use that. There's also a bottom portion of this pistol. So out of the box, and we literally just pulled this out of the box, it comes with a clip for inside the waistband, as you can see right here. Now, you also get an outside the waistband, which they've said before, but it's that paddle that kind of goes, obviously, The paddle goes inside your waistband. The gun will be outside. And then also you get your standard Canik cleaning kit down below. So you get a brush, a little screwdriver or a push pin, and another cleaning rod so you can slide through the barrel. With that being said, this thing feels, so personal opinion time, don't take this as a specification, it feels really good in the hand. That texturing is just as good as the Canik TTI Combat. That Canik TTI Combat stippling is very aggressive, which is the exact same thing that you are going to get on the front and the back. The sides, however, are very moderately aggressive, so they're not going to, of course, hurt you on the way down. But something interesting that people have not talked about is how the stippling goes up past where they normally do on Canik. What do I mean? Okay, so here's the TTI Combat. This is literally the last gun that they launched last year, other than the MC9 L and LS. It stops right here. The stippling does. So as you grab it, your index finger is basically, there's no grip here. And then also your thumb on the other side. With the with the Prime, it is stippled all the way up the grip, which is really nice. The last thing I really wanted to touch on here, you have your standard Canik controls, so your mag release and then your actual slide release here. They're kind of chamfered back, much like you'd see on the L and the LS. They feel very similar to that. But this literally ejects out. Like, I'm holding it up and it still ejects out. Give me 1 sec, I'm gonna show you why that's important. This is the Canik MC9 LS. It does not eject out nearly as much. So obviously it comes out freely whenever you're wanting it to, but you give it certain it can't, and it feels like that mag is like, I'll come out a little bit. I'll be able to grab. This ejects. It flies out of that mag well, which is always nice. And then, of course, the final note is that the mag well on here is shortened and smaller than you might expect on most of your firearms, just because it's meant to be a concealed carry pistol. So, with that being said, that's pretty much all I have for you guys today. So if you have any experiences with the Canik MC9 Prime, yeah, I know a few of you I've talked to about the MC9 Prime who got it before us. Definitely leave a review down below. I would love to see your comments and start a conversation, because I'm very curious as to what you guys think about this pistol. Anyway, that's pretty much everything. So without further ado, I hope that everybody out there stays safe. God bless. It is time to end. Now, I'm gonna go on main channel and we're gonna shoot this thing.